Battlefield RedSec just dropped, and it's free to play, massive, and demanding. We're benchmarking the Ryzen 7 9800X3D and RTX 3090 at 1080p and 1440p with overkill, high, and low settings, plus TAA, DLAA, FSR XESS, and even AMD FSR frame gen. Everything stock, or we're chasing smoothness in Frostbite's latest battle royale. And here's the kicker. Over 96% of you watching aren't subscribed. Let's flip that. Sub goal, 1000. Like, comment what you want benchmark next, and smash that sub button. Let's dive in. Battlefield RedSec at 1080p on an RTX 3090 and Ryzen 7 9800X3D with no upscalers, no frame gen, just raw performance. Let's cut to the chase. How does it handle overkill high and low settings? Here's the breakdown. Overkill settings. With overkill settings, we get 100 FPS, playable, but if you're on a 144Hz or 240Hz monitor, it's not hitting that sweet spot. So why run it? Because RedSec at overkill is a visual masterpiece. The Frostbite engine renders real-time destruction, dynamic lighting, and particle effects that make every explosion feel cinematic. The RTX 3090 handles it like a champ, and the 9800X3D keeps the CPU from bottlenecking. Best for players who prioritize immersion over raw speed. If you want the full RedSec experience, this is your preset. But if you're competitive, you'll want those extra frames. High settings. Drop to high settings and we jump to 140 FPS. Now we're talking. The visuals are still stunning, but the extra frames make gameplay smoother and more responsive. This is the sweet spot for 1080p, great visuals with plenty of headroom for high refresh rate monitors. Why it matters? In RedSec, every frame counts. Whether you're sniping from a distance or brawling in close quarters, that extra smoothness can give you the edge. If you want the best of both worlds, high settings is where you want to be. Low settings. Finally, low settings. 170 FPS. This is Frostbite optimization at its finest. The visuals take a hit, but the raw speed is unmatched. If you're all about frame rate, whether for competitive play, speedrunning, or just bragging rights, this is your preset. Who's it for? If you're on a 240Hz monitor or playing in tournaments, low settings give you the ultimate advantage. The game feels like liquid, with zero input lag and instant responsiveness. It's not the prettiest, but it's the fastest. And in RedSec, speed wins battles. The RTX 3090 is working hard, but can it handle 1440p? 1440p in Battlefield RedSec. This is where the RTX 3090 and Ryzen 7 9800X3D earn their keep. No upscalers, no frame gen, just pure performance. Let's see how it handles overkill, high, and low settings at this demanding resolution. Overkill settings. Overkill at 1440p gets us 70 FPS. It's playable but struggling to keep up with high refresh rate monitors. The Frostbite engine is rendering massive destruction, ultra-detailed textures, and chaotic particle effects, and the RTX 3090 is working hard. The visuals are jaw-dropping, but the frame rate dips below 100 FPS, making it less ideal for competitive play. Best for players who want the best visuals and don't mind sacrificing some smoothness. If you're all about immersion, this is your preset. But if you're chasing wins, you'll want to dial it back. High settings. Drop to high settings and we hit 90 FPS, much better. The visuals remain impressive, but the extra frames make the gameplay feel smoother and more responsive. This is the sweet spot for 1440p, great visuals with enough headroom for 100Hz plus monitors. Why it matters? In RedSec, smoothness is equal to advantage. Whether you're tracking enemies or reacting to explosions, those extra frames help you stay on top. If you want balance, high settings is the way to go. Low settings. Finally, at low settings, we get 140 FPS. Now we're in high refresh territory. The visuals take a hit, but the raw speed is unmatched. If you're on a 44Hz or 165Hz monitor, this is where you want to be. Who's it for? Competitive players, speedrunners, or anyone who wants the highest frame rate possible. The game feels ultra-responsive, giving you the edge in fast-paced battles. It's not the prettiest, but it's the fastest, and in RedSec, speed wins fights. If you want smooth 1440p, you'll need to tweak settings or lean on upscalers. You're running Battlefield RedSec at 1080p overkill on an RTX 3090 and Ryzen 7 9800X3D, but the jagged edges are driving you crazy. Do you go for TAA, DLAA, FSR native AA, or XESS native AA? Each one changes the game, literally. Today, we're breaking down the FPS, cost, visual quality, and best use case for each. Let's find out which one is right for you. TAA. First up is temporal anti-aliasing. With TAA, you're looking at 90 FPS, a 10 FPS drop from native. So what's the payoff? Smoother edges, less shimmering, and a cleaner overall image. The downside? That FPS hit is real, and if you're on a high refresh rate monitor, it might feel like a step back. best for players who prioritize visual smoothness over raw speed. If you hate jaggies and don't mind losing a few frames, TAA is your go-to. But if you're competitive, that 10 FPS drop could be the difference between victory and defeat. DLAA. Next, we've got Deep Learning Anti-Aliasing, DLAA. Here's the magic. 100 FPS, same as native, but with sharper, more detailed visuals. NVIDIA's AI-powered tech reconstructs the image to look almost as crisp as native 4K, but without the performance penalty. Best for NVIDIA GPU users who want better visuals for free. If you've got an RTX card, enable DLAA immediately. It's a no-brainer for crisp, clean edges without sacrificing FPS. FSR Native AA. Now, let's talk FSR Native AA. At 110 FPS, you're getting a 10 FPS boost over native, with cleaner visuals than TAA and less blur. AMD's tech uses spatial scaling to sharpen edges while boosting performance, making it a fantastic choice for AMD and Intel users. Best for gamers who want both better visuals and higher FPS. If you're not on Team NVIDIA, FSR Native AA is your best bet for smoother edges and extra frames. XeSS Native AA. Finally, XeSS Native AA. Intel's answer to FSR and DLSS. Just like FSR, it delivers 110 FPS with sharper edges and better performance than TAA. If you're running an Intel Arc GPU or just want another option, XeSS Native AA is a solid choice. Best for Intel GPU users or anyone looking for an alternative to FSR. It's just as fast, with similar visual benefits. No reason not to try it if your hardware supports it. DLAA is the clear winner if you want visuals and performance. 1440p overkill in Battlefield RedSec is already pushing your RTX 3090 to its limits. But if you want smoother edges, you've got options. TAA, DLAA, FSR Native AA, and XeSS Native AA. Which one gives you the best balance of visuals and FPS? Let's break it down, no fluff, just facts. TAA. First up is temporal anti-aliasing. At 80 FPS, it's playable, but not ideal for high refresh rate monitors. The smoothing effect helps with jagged edges, but it comes with a slight blur, which can make the game feel less sharp. Best for players who prioritize smoothness over clarity and don't mind the softened image. If you're okay with 80 FPS, TAA gets the job done, but there are better options. DLAA. Next, Deep Learning Anti-Aliasing. Here's the kicker, same 80 FPS as TAA, but with sharper visuals. NVIDIA's AI-powered tech cleans up edges without the blur, making everything look crisp and detailed. Best for NVIDIA users who want better visuals without sacrificing FPS. If you've got an RTX GPU, DLAA is the clear winner. No performance cost, just better clarity. FSR Native AA. Now, FSR Native AA. At 70 FPS, it's not worth the trade-off. You're losing 10 FPS compared to TAA and DLAA, and while it reduces jaggies, the performance hit is too steep for most players. Skip it unless you're desperate for anti-aliasing and don't care about frame rate. XeSS Native AA. Finally, XeSS Native AA. Just like DLAA, it delivers 80 FPS, but with better edge clarity than TAA. If you're on Intel Arc or a supported GPU, this is a great alternative, same performance, sharper visuals. Best for Intel users or anyone who wants DLAA-like quality but isn't on Team NVIDIA. DLAA still dominates for visual fidelity. 1080p overkill in Battlefield RedSec is brutal on your GPU, until you enable DLSS, FSR, or XeSS. These upscalers don't just tweak visuals, they rewrite the rules. Today we're comparing DLSS, FSR, and XeSS to see which one gives you the biggest FPS boost while keeping the game looking sharp. Let's dive in. DLSS. First up is DLSS. With DLSS enabled, you're looking at a massive 30 FPS boost over native, hitting 130 FPS. That's huge. NVIDIA's AI-powered upscaling reconstructs the image to look almost as good as native, but with way better performance. Best for NVIDIA GPU users who want the best of both worlds, high FPS and great visuals. If you've got an RTX card, DLSS is a must enable. It's the gold standard for upscaling. FSR. Next, AMD's FSR. At 140 FPS, it's almost like running low settings but with overkill visuals. FSR uses spatial scaling to boost performance while keeping the game looking sharp. The 10 FPS lead over DLSS makes it the best choice for pure performance. Best for AMD users or anyone who wants the highest FPS possible without sacrificing too much visual quality. If you're chasing frames, FSR is your best friend. XeSS. Finally, Intel's XeSS. Just like FSR, it hits 140 FPS, making it a tie for the performance crown. XeSS delivers similar visual quality to FSR, with sharper edges and less blur than TAA. If you're on Intel Arc or a supported GPU, this is the upscaler to beat. Best for Intel users or anyone who wants FSR-like performance but prefers Intel's tech. It's just as fast with great visuals. No reason not to use it if your hardware supports it. DLSS and XeSS are must-enables for NVIDIA and Intel users. 1440p overkill in Battlefield RedSec is demanding, but upscalers like DLSS, FSR, and XeSS can save the day. Which one delivers smooth gameplay without sacrificing visuals? Let's break it down. No fluff, just the facts you need. DLSS. First up is DLSS. At 100 FPS, it's finally smooth high-res gameplay. NVIDIA's AI upscaling reconstructs the image to look almost native, but with a huge performance boost. If you're on Team Green, this is the upscaler to use. Great visuals, great FPS. Best for NVIDIA users who want the best balance of performance and quality. If you've got an RTX GPU, DLSS is a no-brainer. FSR. Next is AMD's FSR. At 120 FPS, it's the best choice for AMD users. FSR pushes performance even further, giving you near-low settings FPS with overkill visuals. The visual trade-off is minimal, making it the top pick for pure speed. Best for AMD GPU owners or anyone who wants the highest FPS possible. If you're chasing frames, FSR is king. XeSS. Finally, Intel's XeSS. At 90 FPS, it's solid, but DLSS still leads. XeSS delivers good visuals, but the performance isn't quite there compared to FSR or DLSS. If you're on Intel Arc, it's worth trying, but NVIDIA and AMD have better options. Best for Intel users who want decent upscaling, but DLSS and FSR are still the top choices. AMD's FSR frame generation isn't just an upgrade, it's a game changer. If you thought upscalers were impressive, wait until you see what frame gen does to your FPS. Today we're testing 1080p and 1440p to see just how insane the performance boost is. Let's dive in. 1080p. At 1080p, FSR frame gen doubles your FPS, hitting a mind-blowing 200 FPS. That's double the frames of native overkill settings. The game feels like a whole new experience, smoother, faster, and more responsive than ever before. Best for competitive players or anyone with a high refresh rate monitor. If you want the absolute highest FPS, FSR frame gen is a must enable. 1440p. At 1440p, FSR frame gen delivers 140 FPS, making high refresh 1440p gaming a reality. The visual trade-off is minimal, but the performance gain is massive. This is the future of high-res gaming, smooth, fast, and stunning. Best for 1440p gamers who want buttery smooth gameplay without sacrificing visuals. So, is the RTX 3090 enough for Battlefield RedSec? At 1080p? Absolutely. With frame generation enabled, we're looking at well over 200 FPS, even during chaotic firefights. The 3090 chews through this resolution like it's nothing. At 1440p? Yes. But this is where you'll want to lean on DLSS or FSR3, especially if you're pushing overkill settings. Those upscalers make a massive difference in keeping gameplay smooth without sacrificing visual fidelity. 4K? Not covered in this test, but if you want a full deep dive at that resolution, let me know down in the comments. It'll happen soon. Final verdict? The RTX 3090 holds its ground. It's powerful enough to dominate Battlefield RedSec, but to truly max it out, you'll want to pair it with upscaling and frame generation. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.